Okay, looking good, feeling good. Hopefully I'm sounding good. Hey everybody, welcome back to Making Waves. This is my weekly podcast production vlog. I'm Kevin Bartelt, podcast producer, engineer, editor extraordinaire. We have a lot to discuss today. Hollywood Handbook Tri-Month updates, Patreon updates, new show updates, something coming out this Thursday for the first time. You heard it here first. However, before we jump into that, I wanted to talk about some advice that I think hopefully should apply to all different skill sets of podcasters, people interested in podcast production, making a damn podcast. And I thought it'd be helpful to categorize it into three different groups: beginner, intermediate, and expert. I have a feeling people who are watching this are, and I could be wrong, but I would say they're kind of in between beginner and intermediate, maybe more on the intermediate side. There's podcasters who listen to the show. Maybe they've been doing it for like 2 or 3 years and they're in a good groove. They're probably out of that, I don't want to say like honeymoon phase, because babe, it's always a honeymoon. My point is, I wanted to give advice for people in all these categories because I don't think it's fair to give like hyper-specific advice to people that are like, well, that doesn't apply to me. It's genuinely not helpful. So I'm going to try my best to basically picture myself talking to 3 different people. So let's jump in. First person, you are new to podcasting. You definitely have listened to a few, enough that you want to do a podcast. My guess is you guested on a few shows, maybe 2, and you were like, that was cool. I want to do something like that. And it seemed really fun. We could talk about goal setting with all of these shows too, which I know is why everyone gets into podcasting, is to set goals. But I don't know. I think beginner category stage, you're just like, this looks fun as hell. I want to talk about something specific, rather with my friends or by myself or with experts in the field. So you come up to me and you say, hey, Kevin, I want to do a show. What's the beginner's route? What's the easy way to do this? I'm assuming you're on a budget. So I'm going to say, get a Yeti microphone. It's definitely more on the affordable side. It's such an easy plug and play. Just plug it right into your computer. It has a USB, cable. You don't have to mess with levels or anything. You can just plug it in, maybe to like QuickTime or GarageBand, something very easy, and then just start doing your show. They even have different dials on the microphone, so you can have it pointed right at you, and it's just picking up what's directly in front of you. There's another one, I should know all of these words, that can pick up everything basically in the room. So if there's multiple people, kind of like omnidirectional, like pointing at specific spots essentially, or picking up everything. And they're just little dials on the like 2 knobs on that microphone. One of the knobs is like a gain, the volume setting on there, and the other one is the 3 basically like microphone options. Super easy to use in a very novice-friendly microphone. So I would recommend, if you're new to podcasting, you want to get a microphone, you're on a budget, get that one. Get a Yeti. They're on Amazon or Best Buy if you don't want to do Amazon, Guitar Center, Target probably. They're very popular. Editing the show. You don't want to spend money on an editing software. You want to keep it easy. If you have a Mac, GarageBand comes with Apple products. It might all automatically be downloaded on your computer as well. And it makes it very easy. All you do is just take that, what you actually can do is record your Yeti microphone directly to GarageBand. If you're recording with another person and you have their audio, you're recording like two people at the same time, you can just do it on GarageBand right there. And then when you're done, just hit play and listen back and start editing. Very easy, where you're not having to like take audio from one thing and move it to another place. It's pretty simple. So my first like 2 years into podcasting, before I got like a podcast job, I was recording and editing in GarageBand. Very easy to use. PC users, I don't know, maybe if you're a PC user who has a podcast, comment what software you use. If it's, I don't know, I'm thinking here like beginner category 2, I would recommend Audacity, which I know is what some people use to record their audio. And I believe some people edit on Audacity too. Again, it's free. I haven't used it in a while. I know there's probably other ones as well, but if you're a Mac user and you're interested in 101, get GarageBand. And honestly, I'm going to recommend GarageBand for intermediate as well. If you want to start paying for stuff, there's other ones I'll recommend later. But I'm trying to keep this budget friendly, especially for beginners. I think it can get overwhelming, the price of everything, with the microphones and the editing software. And if you're doing like clips and stuff on social media, if you want to like pay for something with that, the price can get intimidating. It can be extremely easy to start a show, but you know, the expenses add up quickly. Another thing you can do if you want to go even easier is, and again, we're kind of sacrificing convenience for quality a little bit here, but when I'm recording someone on like a Zoom, let's say, and they don't have a microphone, which is totally fine, I just say, hey, do you have an iPhone or a phone? And they say yes. I'm like, okay, just hit a voice memo for me and then send me that audio. It's actually going to sound really clean and I can use it. They say, no problem. They do a voice memo. They email it to me or upload it on Dropbox. And I use that. And I think a lot of podcast episodes that you probably have listened to, if you listen to any of the shows I've worked on, I promise you there's been a voice memo, guest audio recording, and host audio recording that I've used before. And I'm fortunate that I haven't seen any complaints. You know, it's not the preferred option, but it's better than nothing. It's better than like crappy Zoom audio or, you know, that voice memo recording can be better than some microphones that sound bad. So course correcting here a little bit. If you want a microphone and you want to start, I would say start with a Yeti. But if even that is too intimidating, use the voice memo on your phone, or if you have Android, the recording app on there as well. And then a little tip I would say before even trying recording the first episode is do a voice memo or get your microphone out. And I would just practice monologuing, just talking for like 10, 20 minutes uninterrupted and see how it goes. If you're really struggling, it might be good to practice a few times before you do that first episode. Just so you feel comfortable talking to a microphone. I've been talking into a mic for 10 years. I started doing this vlog. What did I immediately do? I had the mic like down here. It sounded like crap. And part of that, and this is my fault, is I'm not using headphones when I do these. I just think visually it looked a little distracting. Not very like YouTube friendly, I think. So now I'm trying to be very careful and not screw up my audio. Oh no, what am I doing? I had to move the microphone, Kevin. So my point is, practice. Had I done a practice one, I would have listened back and gone like, oh, I need to move the microphone a little bit closer to my mouth. So if you're a little nervous about that first podcast recording, especially if you have a guest on, do a trial run. And then for posting, there's free publishing websites like Libsyn, I believe Acast as well, Buzzsprout is one, I think. They're all, if you just Google like upload podcast for free, places like Libsyn, Buzzsprout, Acast, other places should have like essentially a hosting platform for you where you can write your episode description and your title of your show. You can upload the audio. It will create an RSS feed for you. And then boom, you got your podcast. So let's just kind of walk through that. A quick recap. Novice level, beginner level, record Yeti, iPhone recording if needed. You're, again, sacrificing quality a little bit. Edited in GarageBand, posted on a place like Libsyn, a place that has a free publishing site for you to distribute your podcast to basically every app. Sometimes you probably have heard on a podcast like a commercial, basically like an ad. You can listen to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Those three things are because of a website like a Buzzsprout, Libsyn, Acast, where there's probably so many more too, where it just uploads it to all the apps basically. So that's beginner. I don't think I'm missing anything major, but that's what I would recommend to a person who came in, walked in the studio door right now and said, Kev, I listened to a few podcasts. I've done one. I've guested on one. I didn't really know what was happening on the production side. How do I host a show? The last thing I'll say with beginner is you're probably not hiring anybody. You have no team, you have no producer, no editor. It's just you. You're hosting the show, you're recording it, you're editing it. Because there is no budget, really, you're doing it all by yourself. So that is the beginner stage. Now, let's move up to intermediate. Beginner has walked out of the studio. New person has walked in. This is a person who, let's just say, for clarity purposes, they've been doing a podcast for 2 years and they're ready to upgrade. They're comfortable and confident behind the microphone. Their editing skills are improving, and maybe they're getting a little bit of revenue, whether that be through ads or a paywalled service like Patreon or Memberful or something. And so they're getting a little bit of money. Let's say realistically, they're doing one episode a week, and they're getting, let's say, anywhere between 3,000 and 7,000 downloads a week. I'm going to guess they're making $100 to $200 a month. And that can be a much wider range as well. It could be $50 a month. It could be $500, $600, $700 a month. But let's just say they're making $250 a month. So now they're ready to upgrade, and they come to me and say, okay, I feel like I have the skills of intermediate. How would you help me morph into this? So the first thing I would do is say, let's upgrade the microphones. I am probably saying, if you're interested, getting something like an SM58. It's super easy, dynamic microphone. It's a handheld. I literally record, obviously, I mean, it's right here. This wasn't like really planned. It was a little bit planned. But I recorded someone an hour ago with this, and it sounds great. It actually sounded better than a different microphone, a higher end microphone that I was using. But it's super, super reliable, the SM58. They're $100, and I really, really like them. Have recorded hundreds and hundreds of episodes with SM58s. Sean and Hayes both use 58s at home with their, whenever they do Zoom recordings. And dozens of podcast hosts that I know use SM58s. When the pandemic started and I was at Earwolf, and we had to give Brett Morris, the lead engineer, I had to give everyone, all 30 of the host microphones. I believe most of the hosts, not all of them, but most of them got SM58s. It's super reliable microphone. I probably should double check that that's true. I think there were like a few microphone options, but this one's the most reliable. And so a lot of people use this microphone. It's like what you see like stand-up comedians and stuff use too. They take the this windscreen off and record like on stage is the more what you would normally see with this microphone. Highly recommend getting a windshield, whatever it is. Windshields can't be windshield. Go to your car, take the windshield off. No, I'm probably right. I don't know. Get this protective foam around the microphone. Why? Because those P's will pop and it will be so annoying. And it requires more work of you. So SM58, $100. First thing you should do. I would definitely recommend that. Just sounds really good. For editing the show, you can still record into GarageBand. You might need like an adapter cable because this is using an XLR. You probably need something that's like an XLR to a USB cable, basically. And so we're kind of getting into that category with adapters and what have you. But the SM58 is great. If you wanted to also, if you record multiple people, a very reliable recording device, especially if you do remote recordings, is something called the Zoom H6. I highly recommend checking that out as well. I've recorded hundreds of episodes on H6s. Just a handheld recording device that has 4 inputs for 4 XLR microphones. And super easy to use, very reliable. Here's the only tip, not the only, this is an important tip I would give if you are recording maybe right now or in the future with a Zoom H6. There are 2 ways you can power the Zoom H6. You can do it with like a power adapter plugged into the side of it, and then basically that cable plugs into a wall outlet, or you can do a 4 AA batteries just right into the back. So you're probably assuming I'm going to say, hey, do the wall outlet because you never know when your batteries are going to die. I'm actually going to say, do that and make sure you have 4 fresh AA batteries in your H6. Because if something happens, and this happened to me before and it sucks, a host accidentally like knocked the cable and it unplugged the H6 15 minutes into a recording. It killed the power. We lost the recording, and the batteries I had not replaced in a while, batteries were dead. So if you have fresh AA batteries in the Zoom H6, still powered into the wall, but if for some reason something happens, the power goes out, someone, like I said, for my example, trips over something and just turns it off, the recording will still keep happening. So basically in intermediate, you're looking at ideally 1 or 2 of the Shure SM58 microphones. If you would like to record into a device that's not directly your laptop and be a lot more convenient, I'd recommend the Zoom H6. So your audio recording is a lot nicer, and that's going to be a pretty significant upgrade. Your listeners will notice a difference, frankly. I would still keep editing in GarageBand. If you would like to use a different editing software like Pro Tools, like Adobe Audition, like Logic, you can. However, if your budget is limited, spend it on the recording equipment more so than your DAW. The DAWs are the editing softwares. And then add intermediate to, I think, this is not necessary. However, I I view it as you probably are hiring one employee. This is like a producer editor who is handling the production for you. And so they are editing the show. They're probably recording it. If they're not, they're handling maybe everything leading up to the recording, sending you segment ideas and pitches, or then they handle the post-production of the show, assembling all the audio and editing the episode and then publishing the episode for you. Also in intermediate, this kind of maybe, we're kind of going from intermediate into expert, which is at this level, you're probably, maybe that person or somebody else is handling social media clips of your show so that you are regularly promoting and posting the show as well. And honestly, that might still be you, and you're just hiring someone to handle editing the show and producing the show. So we're kind of entering into this area now where I would say, okay, intermediate, I've given you all the tools. Just make a damn good podcast. That person leaves. They walk out of this dang studio. They say, thank you, Kevin. I say, you're welcome. And now we're looking at the expert. The expert just walked in the door. They've been doing this for years. They are ready to do a S-tier podcast. They ask me, what do I need? I'm building a team. I say, okay, let's talk gear. The Shure SM7B, it's this microphone. You need something called a cloud lifter, or basically something that significantly raises the gain of these microphones. There's two things people use, something called the FET head, FETHEAD. I'm not a big fan of them. I like something called the cloud lifter, which has been a lot more reliable for me. That is creating like a louder, higher quality, basically audio level. So SM7B, a lot of people also have been using Shure's, and I have a few of these. It's called the MV7. It's Shure's first podcasting microphone. Price range, it is in between the SM58, which is this guy, and the SM7B. The SM58 is $100. The SM7B is $400. The MV7 is $250, I believe. So if you want the MV7, you can, but the MV7 I think is a little bit better for just, I don't know, like if you're doing a lot of like Zoom recordings, just get a MV7 and plug that right into your laptop, and you can record directly there. I don't think you need an SM7B if you're doing Zoom recordings and remote recordings. Because like I said, you have to get the cloud lifter. The cloud lifter is an extra $100. Then you're recording into maybe something like a Scarlett Focusrite. So very quickly you're spending like $1,000 just for your microphone. So I would get the Shure MV7 and USB-C that bad boy right into your laptop. But if you're doing like this, maybe a studio recording, I don't know, for better and for worse, the Shure SM7B has become the quote unquote industry standard. And that quote unquote includes you messing up the word industry standard. That's the full quote. You're probably editing in a DAW. You're probably speaking of industry standard, kind of seems like Adobe Audition is becoming a lot of the industry standard, which is a little intimidating for me as I only use Pro Tools, but fortunately people are not asking me to change editing softwares. So if you're interested in like probably the future of podcast editing, maybe learn Audition because it syncs up with the video software Premiere and the whole like Adobe suite. But it's also, I don't know, I think it's personal preference. If you can edit the shit out of a podcast in GarageBand, like all of these things have, plugins and different tools and resources to make your podcast sound really, really good. So, um, watch some other people on YouTube who are much smarter than me. Bar's pretty low there, talking about what they like and dislike about editing podcast on these various editing softwares. You're probably using Audition, Pro Tools, Logic, something a little fancier to edit the show. Expert level. And I'm kind of just frankly assuming the budget's pretty unlimited here. Maybe not unlimited, but you are actively spending money on the show. You have a full team. So if you're with a network, hopefully they're providing a lot of that. A producer, an engineer, an editor. These can be 3 different people. They can be 1. A talent booker, they're booking the guest for you. A social media person. So that's 5 right there. And yeah, like I talked a couple videos ago, there are several people that can be part of your podcast production team. So for expert, quote unquote, expert level, I'm gonna guess, I don't know. It's pretty interesting because some shows like having a team of like 10 people on their show. And I don't know, with some of these, I just recorded someone that their show has gotten allegedly 200 million downloads. They got a big ass team, rightfully so. There's a lot of money and pressure going into that show. So I would say, if you're at this level, you are seriously looking at multiple people on your team. It's definitely more than 1. It could be 2 people. One person is handling a lot of it. Another person is an expert, like in a specific field. And then maybe a third person is helping out with some other things. It could be like 5 to 6 people. One person's recording, one person's editing, one person's producing, one person's like associate producer, talent booker, etc. Like I said, it adds up so quickly. And expert level to me also is marketing. It is harder and harder to market and promote a podcast as the market becomes so overly saturated. The marketing budget becomes a pretty crucial part of the show. And so those are the things you're thinking about at expert level. Is I'm recording a huge person, a major talent in a month. My marketing team is reaching out to different publications, giving them a heads up. We're trying to get as much press out of this episode as we possibly can. And just like a really, really aggressive marketing team. I think that is becoming, I don't want to say as important, but significantly, I don't want to say more important than it used to, but I don't know, if I'm at expert level, I'm looking at marketing people who are actively promoting my show in a way that I am not at all at beginner or intermediate. And not even in a way that I was 5 years ago, frankly. And I worked with super talented marketing people, but I think their value has gone up more and more year after year. I don't want to say in a way that some other roles haven't, but kinda. Marketing is really important. So that's it. That is my kind of 3 skill levels that I would view hosting and making a podcast today. All right, now that we have discussed the various skill levels of making a show, let's jump into my life as Mr. Podcast Producer and what the latest is. We're in the early middle of Try Month happening on Hollywood Handbook. and it's going very well. Last week, the episode with Rachel Bilson and Olivia Allen came out on Hollywood Handbook. They were great, and it was so much fun. I was a little nervous because they'd never met before, and I was just like, wow, my moms are meeting my dad, so I hope this goes well. And it was a blast. They were so fun and funny and game in a way that I noticed a few commenters like saying the same thing. It's really fun on that show when a person you wouldn't expect does Hollywood Handbook and they have a blast. It is such a fun feeling. It's fun when, I don't know, we have comedy people do the show, but you kind of expect and like anticipate them doing a good job because they're comedy people and they're talking to comedy people. And I don't know, I think it helps a lot that like Rachel and Olivia are both very funny. And so they were just like, yeah, I was describing the show to them. And I gave them, a thing I've been doing lately is saying like, here's an episode or two I would recommend you check out to kind of understand the tone of the show. Sometimes I think listening to an episode is more helpful than trying to describe the show. And they showed up. They got there before Sean and Hayes. And Olivia was like, I listened. And then Rachel said, I didn't intentionally because I didn't want to get in my head and try to like do what I thought was the right thing to do. She's like, I'm just going in blind. So I thought that was great that like one of them listened and one of them didn't. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. So this week, week 2, there is a guest that we recorded a couple weeks ago who has never done the show. A requested person who is extremely funny. And I was so happy that she did the show. And I think people are really going to enjoy that episode. Where I'm at right now is kind of an interesting spot, which is a third person confirmed. I'm recording them in a couple days. I'm very excited about this. And I think it's going to be a great episode. Super popular name in comedy, and I'm just pumped about it. However, a person who I was anticipating and planning on recording for the last week of March had a scheduling conflict, and now they have to do April. And this is a thing that happens, I don't want to say every year, but it has happened several times where Tri-Month bleeds into April just because of the scheduling. Sometimes people go like, hey, I would love to. I just can't do it until whatever, this day. And that's what happened here was like, I was hoping and / planning on this happening like mid-March. And they responded to me and was like, hey, I'm still down. I can't do it till April. So it's like, yeah, okay. So now it's like, the last time we talked on this vlog, I had 2 people confirmed and recorded, and I had 2 basically maybes, or technically like a yes and a maybe, like potentially scheduling, but nothing was confirmed. Now I have 2 confirmed and recorded. One of them's released. 1 confirmed, recording in a couple days. And now nothing for a 4th. So I had reached out about someone, another like huge name in comedy, potentially doing it. And it's possible there's just some scheduling conflicts that I'm not like super optimistic about. So I don't know. So I feel like better and worse from last week because it's like, awesome. This huge name confirmed. Very exciting. But now the 4th person for the 4th week is no longer happening then. It's still happening. It's just going to happen a few weeks later. So now it's like, okay, this person confirmed, which is good, but now the 4th week is open. So I'm trying to get someone, which would be a crazy huge name and really exciting if it happens. But like I said, some potential scheduling issues that I'm not like super confident about. However, I will say, and I don't really know if this is like, I don't think this is really blowing up anyone's spot because it's not very surprising, but it is interesting when I see it. I was looking at the analytics a couple days ago, and the biggest episodes in the last year and a half have all been fan favorites. People who have done the show multiple times, who are extremely funny and beloved. And it was just like, oh, I should just I should just circle this into the rotation more probably than I am. And it's not like the same person, but it's like, I don't know, the same chunk of people. There is a noticeable spike in their episodes. But that doesn't mean when we have new people on, because I really like having new people on, or people that are like maybe not fan favorites, but people that I really enjoy the 2 episodes that they've done. I still want to keep having new people on, and we will. And I still want to keep having people on who have like done the show once, but it was really fun, but their numbers weren't as huge. And then also, you obviously want to be sensitive about, I don't want to keep just having on the same five people every year just because their episodes do better than the others. So, I mean, frankly, I want to have them on because they're very fun and funny and I like them. That should be more of a reason to have them on than because of the downloads. However, if, downloads decrease, we have to have a bigger conversation, which is not so fun. So I don't know. That's kind of another thought I'm having too, is like the 4th person could also just be someone who I and the fans and Sean and Hayes all like really love and enjoy, who hasn't done the show in a while. So like, I don't know, that's an option too. But Tri-month has typically always been, not always, Podcasters Promise doesn't really count in this, but it's always been people who have never done the show before. It's been big names that are new to the show. However, I've been doing this for like 6 years now, so it's challenging. So that's where we are at with Tri-month. I would kind of say 2 steps forward, 1 step backward, which is like good, I guess. And you know what I would say? It's 1 step diagonally, where it's like, it's technically forward. What else should we talk about? Let's talk about my 2 goals for Handbook and the Handbook universe was like increasing episode quality, which I think we have been. We've been having like great episodes, fun premises, and I don't know, I feel like we're in like a good groove. And then the other goal was like a financial public goal, which is the Patreon. When I first started these vlogs, it was at $37,000 a month on the Patreon. My goal was for it to get to 38,500. And I was getting pretty significant progress every week. It would go up a little bit. My last time we talked about this, I think we were at like 37,750. And I was like, okay, I'm like 750 away from the goal in 6 weeks. So that feels attainable, especially like pre-Tri-month and everything. So basically what ended up happening is the annual subscriptions, I feel like, are a double-edged sword in that it is cool that people can pay for an entire year up front. They get 16% off, so they get a pretty nice discount when they do that. Because of that, we have so many people that are paying for annual. There is a more likely of a chance of a drop-off when they renew, because maybe their cards are canceled or they only wanted to pay for a year. So you see a pretty noticeable change, fluctuation with the annual subs. And so even though I like it and I like that we provide it, it does make January, February, March kind of more stressful than normal, because I don't know if 5% of people are going to drop off or 25%. And as someone whose personal revenue is connected to that, it's stressful. And so what ended up happening is we went from we were at 30, like I said, at the beginning of these in January, around 37,000. Then it was like 37, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I was like, oh my God, I'm $600 away from my goal. And then it just dropped $1,000, maybe even more. And so right now, I think we're back at 37.1. But after 6 weeks of noticeable progress, like I said, a percentage of people dropped off those annual subs. And so now it is as if I am truly starting over from the very first vlog that we did. So I am not confident that I'm going to reach that goal by the end of March now, because of that drop off. So it happens, and I don't know what to say. It's kind of out of my control. It's the annual sub drop off. And so that's what happened. The goal is to decrease that. So not as many people drop off. So one of the ways that I think I am helping to prevent that is, hopefully this week we are launching a new show. And I am, it's going to be kind of a tight turnaround I'm hoping we record it on Thursday and release it on Friday. Also hoping this becomes a weekly show. I do think people will enjoy it. There's another show coming out in potentially 6 weeks. So, also on the Patreon. So there's, one of the ways I think we can grow the Patreon is by adding high quality, good shows, on there. And the other thing I think is I don't know. Sean has talked a lot about how much he loves the pro version. I love the pro version so much as well. And I think Hayes does too. I think all three of us really, really enjoy it. And I think we've all been quoted saying at various times it's our favorite thing to do, because of how easy and fun it is. It is interesting. I got drinks with someone this week who was like, if you look at a lot of the Patreons that continue to grow month after month after month with no drop off that I just described, part of it is I think they did not turn on annual subscriptions. However, besides that, their episodes are very long. And so it's funny because with paywalled content, I almost think seeing a 3-4 hour episode is more enticing than a 30-minute episode. Now, the tricky thing is, with the Flagrant Ones universe, there's no realistic world where anyone's doing 4-hour episodes. So I think the closest is Sean did a few 3+ hour subtitles on episodes, but it's just not realistic that there's going to be a new weekly 2 to 3 hour show. But there's just something very interesting about episode length and paywalled content, where if you see a free show and you see a 3-4 hour episode, it's kind of 50-50. I think a lot of people though go I'm not listening to a 3-hour podcast. But if you're paying for it, you might be oh, hell yeah, a 4-hour episode. That's crazy. And it creates this very devoted fan base. I think part of it is because you're providing these longer episodes. And so, we will always do the pro version, and I don't think that should ever change. But it's a thing I'm keeping an eye out for, future shows that we're doing, trying to keep the episodes at least always over an hour. And I'm hoping that's what happens with this new show that's hopefully coming out this week. and the one that's going to drop in like 6 weeks. So I think both of those things should help us get to that 38.5 goal that I set. But as of today, it does not look realistic for the end of Q1. Okay, I talked about Tri-Month. I talked about the Patreon. I talked about the news show. I'm going to just vaguely say a new limited series that I recorded and edited is coming out this Thursday. I'm very excited about it. I think people will be pumped for it. And I will talk more about that in detail next week after it is released. So that's another new thing I'm working on. And then let's just kind of quickly talk about Mental and Extra, my two code names for the new shows I've been working on. Recorded Mental yesterday for 4 hours, which was crazy. And this morning as well. Feeling really good about that show. And I think I've like found organically a good dynamic with my co-producer, who is just crushing it in a way that I want to kind of give him the keys to do a majority of the producing. I want to be careful, I guess, with the way I word that. But when the show comes out, in June, I'll talk more about it. But he is doing such a good job at like in such an important part of the show that it's now making me go like, oh, because he's doing so good at that, maybe what I can be bringing to the table are more like working with the team and focusing on the marketing and the growth of the show. And then when it comes to these specific like segments that we're doing and stuff, let him do that because he's doing such a fantastic job on the like 5 recordings we've done. I've just seen him get better and better each time. And so now I'm kind of like, oh, I don't want to like interfere with this. I should just let him keep doing that and do a really good job with that. And then I will focus on some other parts of the show. And so I'll probably be talking about that more next week, like finding what that specifically is. But I really like his dynamic with the host. And I've worked with this host long enough. And these two guys know each other, have known each other for years. And so I'm going to be like focusing on different things with that show. But I feel really confident about it. Extra is coming out pretty soon. And that will be, you know, one of my, if not my biggest launch of the year. And that's going to be, you know, in the next month. So we'll be talking more about that. I am super excited about it. I feel so confident about that show as well. The thing I really need to focus on that show and Mental, but I really want to focus on that with Extra is the launch. It's very soon. And I really want to try to book them on as many podcasts as possible. Same with Mental. There's a lot of similarities here, but both of these shows, in regards to the content and the episodes, I feel really good about both of them. So now what I need to focus on is both of these shows having huge launches, and having them guest on as many shows as possible. That's really what I'm going to be focusing on next with both of those. That is everything. So I don't think I'm missing anything. If you have any questions, if there's anything maybe specific that you're working on in podcasting or you're struggling with, let me know if there's any questions you have. Often I've just been answering them in the comments. But if there's a thing that you would like me to make a video about, I'm more than happy to. I think kind of a new groove I've found with this vlog is obviously talking about, you know, the things that I'm working on and the things that I'm trying to do to grow my shows. But kind of like a 50% that, 50% general podcasting discussion as well. And so if there's things in that general podcasting thing that you'd like me to hit, or things in my personal stuff that you'd like me to hit, please leave a comment, and I'd be more than happy to chat about it. Because I don't know, I want to make content that you guys are interested in. So thanks everyone for watching. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next week.